My husband left me because I warned my Bill against his cheating. Sister now, 2 years later, history repeats when I tell my estranged husband that his new wife is cheating on him. I 34F never thought I'd be in this situation, but here I am. I'm still trying to process everything that happened, and I really need some outside perspective. This is going to be a long post, so I apologize in advance. I've been married to my husband. Let's call him Tom. 36 meters for 8 years. We've had our ups and downs, but overall, I thought we had a strong relationship. Tom has a sister, Sarah, 32F, who's been married to Mike, 35 meters, for 5 years. Mike is honestly one of the kindest, most genuine people I've ever met. He's always been there for our family, and he treats Sarah like a queen. About 6 months ago, I started noticing some strange behavior from Sarah. She'd become very protective of her phone, always keeping it face down or in her pocket. She'd leave the room to take calls, and she seemed distracted during family gatherings. At first, I didn't think much of it. We all have our moments. Right. Things took a turn when I borrowed Sarah's laptop to check my email during a family barbecue at their house. When I opened the browser, I saw her Facebook was still logged, and I know I shouldn't have looked, but something caught my eye. There was an open chat with a man I didn't recognize, and the messages were intimate, to say the least. I quickly closed the browser, feeling sick to my stomach. I spent the next few days agonizing over what I'd seen. Should I confront Sarah, tell Mike, keep it to myself? I decided to talk to Sarah privately. When I confronted her, she broke down crying. She admitted she'd been having an emotional affair with a coworker for the past few months. She swore it hadn't gotten physical, but she was struggling with her feelings. Sarah begged me not to tell Mike or Tom. She said she was confused and needed time to figure things out. She promised she'd end things with the other man and work on her marriage. Against my better judgment, I agreed to keep her secret. I thought maybe it was just a phase, a moment of weakness that she'd overcome. Weeks passed, and I watched Sarah and Mike's interactions closely. To my relief, Sarah seemed more attentive to Mike, and I hoped the whole thing was behind us. But then, about 2 months after our talk, I overheard Sarah on the phone in our backyard during a family dinner. She was whispering, but I could clearly hear her making plans to meet someone in a hotel. My heart sank. I couldn't ignore it anymore. The guilt was eating me alive. Every time I saw Mike so loving and trusting, I felt like I was betraying him too. After another sleepless night, I made the decision to tell Mike everything. I asked Mike to meet me for coffee, saying I needed his advice on something. When we sat down, I could barely look him in the eye. I started by apologizing for what I was about to tell him, and then I let it all out: the Facebook messages, the phone call, everything. Mike sat there in stunned silence, his face a mix of shock, pain, and disbelief. When Mike finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. He thanked me for telling him and left quickly. I sat there for a long time, wondering if I'd done the right thing. The fallout was immediate and intense. Mike confronted Sarah that same day, and she admitted to the affair. It turned out it had indeed become physical. Their house turned into a war zone, with Sarah moving out to stay with a friend within days. I thought that would be the end of it, at least for me, but I was wrong. Tom came home one night absolutely livid. Sarah had called him hysterical, saying I ruined her marriage. Tom was furious that I'd interfered in his sister's relationship. He accused me of betraying family loyalty and sticking my nose where it didn't belong. I tried to explain my position. I told Tom how I'd initially hid Sarah's secret, hoping she'd sort things out. I explained the guilt I felt knowing Mike was being deceived. I argued that Sarah was the one who ruined her marriage by cheating, not me for exposing the truth. But Tom wouldn't hear it. He kept saying I should have minded my own business, that family should stick together no matter what. Our argument escalated, with both of us saying hurtful things. Tom accused me of always thinking I knew best, of being a busybody who couldn't resist drama. I shot back that his blind loyalty to his sister was misplaced, and that he was overlooking her betrayal of a good man. The fight ended with Tom storming out. He didn't come home that night or the next. When he finally returned, he was cold and distant. He said he needed time to think about our relationship. I was shocked. How had my marriage become collateral damage in this mess? Over the next few weeks, Tom and I tried to talk things through, but we kept hitting the same wall. He couldn't get past what he saw as my betrayal of his sister, while I couldn't understand how he could defend Sarah's actions. The tension in our house was unbearable. Finally, after a particularly heated argument, Tom dropped a bombshell. He said he wanted a separation. He felt he couldn't trust me anymore, that I'd shown my true colors by turning on family. I was devastated. How had trying to do the right thing cost me so much. Is right. This Tom is staying with a friend. We're technically separated, though neither of us has mentioned divorce yet. Sarah and Mike are in the middle of divorce proceedings. Mike has thanked me multiple times for telling him the truth, saying he'd rather know than live a lie. But that small comfort doesn't ease the pain of watching my own marriage crumble. I've replayed the events in my head 1,000 times. Should I have kept quiet? Was Tom right that I should have minded my own business? But every time I think about Mike blissfully unaware while his wife betrayed him, I feel I made the right choice. Yet the cost has been so high. My friends are divided. Some say I did the right thing, that exposing infidelity is always the moral choice. Others say I should have stayed out of it, that it wasn't my secret to tell. I'm torn between standing by my principles and wishing I could turn back time and keep my mouth shut. So I turn to you. Am I wrong for telling Mike about Sarah's infidelity, even though it's led to the potential end of my own marriage? Was I wrong to prioritize honesty over family loyalty? Should I have given Sarah more time to come clean on her own? I'm lost and could really use some outside perspective. Edit 1. Wow, I didn't expect this post to blow up like this. Thank you all for your comments and insights. I want to clarify a few things based on the questions I'm seeing. 1. Yes, I did try to talk to Tom about the situation before telling Mike. Tom was away on a business trip when I first discovered Sarah's affair, and I wanted to discuss it with him in person. By the time he got back, Sarah had convinced me to keep quiet, so I didn't bring it up. In hindsight, I should have told Tom immediately. 2. Some people are asking about Mike and Sarah's kids. They don't have any children, which is one small mercy in this situation. I can't imagine how much more complicated this would be if there were kids involved. 3. A lot of you are suggesting marriage counseling for Tom and me. I brought it up, but Tom is resistant to the idea right now. He says he needs space to process everything. I'm hoping he'll come around to the idea of counseling once some time has passed. 4. To those asking about Sarah and the other man, as far as I know, they're not together. Sarah claims she ended things with him when Mike found out, but I don't know if that's true. I'm trying to keep my distance from the whole situation. Now, 5. Some have asked about my relationship with Mike. Now, we're friendly when we see each other at family events, but we're not close. I think he appreciates what I did, but it's also a painful reminder for him. We're keeping things polite but distant. 6. To address the comments about family loyalty, I understand where Tom is coming from. I really do. He and Sarah have always been close, but I can't agree that family loyalty should extend to covering up infidelity. I believe loyalty should be to what's right, not to protecting someone who's causing harm. 7. For those suggesting I had ulterior motives or enjoyed the drama, I can assure you that's not the case. This has been one of the most stressful and painful experiences of my life. I never wanted any of this to happen. I was just trying to do what I thought was right in an impossible situation. I'm reading all your comments and trying to respond where I can. Thank you all for your input, even if I don't agree with all of it. This has given me a lot to think about. Edit 2. I've been thinking a lot about a comment someone made about how I handled the initial discovery. You're right, I shouldn't have snooped in Sarah's Facebook messages, even though it was accidental at first. I should have logged out immediately. That was a violation of her privacy, and I regret it. I still think telling Mike was the right thing to do ultimately, but I should have handled that initial discovery differently. Edit 3. To those asking for an update, there isn't much to report yet. Tom and I are still separated. We've had a few conversations, mostly about practical matters. He's still very hurt and angry. I'm giving him space, but I've made it clear I'm open to working on our marriage if he's willing. As for Sarah and Mike, their divorce is proceeding. I'm trying to stay out of it as much as possible. I'll post an update if anything significant changes. Thank you all for your support and advice during this difficult time. Update: it's been a while since my original post, and a lot has happened. I wanted to give you all an update on how things have turned out. Buckle up, because this story took some unexpected turns. After my last update, things with Tom continued to deteriorate despite my hopes that he might come around to the idea of counseling. He became more and more distant. Our conversations, when we had them, were tense and often ended in arguments. It became clear that Tom couldn't move past what he saw as my betrayal of his sister. About 6 months after my original post, Tom filed for divorce. I was heartbroken, but by that point I wasn't surprised. The divorce process was difficult and emotionally draining, but we managed to keep things civil for the most part. We finalized our divorce about a year after my original post. I spent the next year focusing on healing and rebuilding my life. I threw myself into my work, started therapy, and reconnected with old friends. Slowly but surely, I started to feel like myself again. I even went on a few dates, though nothing serious developed. Now, here's where things get interesting. About 2 years after my original post, I heard through the grapevine that Tom had gotten remarried. I was surprised by how quickly he had moved on, but I wished him well. His new wife, let's call her Tanya, seemed nice. From the little I knew about her, life has a strange way of coming full circle. Sometimes about 3 months ago, I was at a business conference in another city. I was having dinner at the hotel restaurant when I saw a familiar face. Tanya, Tom's new wife. She was sitting at a table in a secluded corner with a man I didn't recognize at first. I thought nothing of it, but as I watched, I realized their body language was far too intimate for colleagues or friends. I felt sick to my stomach. It was like deja vu. I couldn't believe I was in this position again. I debated what to do. Should I mind my own business this time? But I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to do something. For days, I agonized over what to do. The irony of the situation wasn't lost on me. Finally, I decided I had to tell Tom. I couldn't let him go through what Mike had gone through. Even if Tom and I were no longer together, I called Tom and asked if we could meet. He was surprised to hear from me, but agreed. When we met, I could see the confusion and concern on his face. I took a deep breath and told him everything I had seen at the conference. Tom was silent for a long time. After I finished speaking, then, to my surprise, he started to cry, but queen sobs. He told me he had already suspected something was going on with Tanya, but had been in denial. My information just confirmed his fears. As Tom calmed down, he looked at me with a mix of gratitude and regret. He apologized for how he had treated me during our marriage and divorce. He said he now understood why I had told Mike about Sitter's affair, and that he had been wrong to react the way he did. Tom asked if there was any chance we could try again. Now that he understood my perspective, part of me was touched by his apology and admission of wrongdoing. But a larger part of me knew that too much had happened, too much time had passed. I told Tom that while I appreciated his apology, I couldn't go back. The trust between us had been broken, not just by the divorce, but by the years of anger and resentment that followed. I had moved on and built a new life for myself, and I wasn't willing to risk that for a relationship that had caused me so much pain. Tom was disappointed, but said he understood. We parted on good terms, with a mutual respect that had been missing for a long time. As for me, I feel a sense of closure that I didn't even realize I needed. I stand by my decision to tell the truth in both situations, even though it cost me my marriage. The first time I've learned that honesty, while sometimes painful, is always the best policy in the long run. Life is full of unexpected twists and turns, and I'm sure there will be more challenges ahead, but I feel stronger now, more sure of myself and my values. I'm looking forward to whatever the future holds, knowing that I'll face it with integrity and honesty. Thank you all for your support throughout this journey. Your comments and advice helped me more than you know during some of my days. I hope this update provides some closure for those of you who have followed my story.